Kinera, Imperial, Loki. They look spectacular. Always have. They took, all these different drivers and they played them to their maximum effect. Honestly, you have to give a round of applause to Kinera. It should shut everyone up who says they can't tune IEMs. This is not a basshead IEM. Let's put that out there right now. I now have a different opinion about Kinera and their full mad abilities to tune stuff. It's a really, really wonderful sounding IEM. If you own this set, you're lucky. You really are. Hello, Tone Deaf Monk. So when a friend of mine in our review group said he bought a kilobuck Kinera, what went through my mind was, are you okay? Because every other Kinera I've ever bought or listened to had something wrong with its tuning. I'll be honest. For me, my tastes. Though they look spectacular. Always have. Packaging, fantastic. Even from the BD05 Pro that I bought years ago, when I first started in the industry, I kind of really liked it, and then started understanding a bit of my tuning preferences. So I thought he was a bit nuts. He also went and got a custom shell done for these, and they look spectacular. I'm going to talk to you about Kinera Imperial Loki. Here is his custom shell. The pictures, not even remotely close to showing you how absolutely stunning these things are. They're like a blue speckle shell with a kind of a purple, and they're amazing. Let me get this tip off here. And let me just put this over there. Get this little tip off. All right. So there you can see the nozzle. Three large bores and one small one. And with that, there's also 3 large vents on the back side. And with this configuration and this cable here I'm using, I'm going too fast to start off with. Let's go back for a second and give you some of this backstory with this $3,099 IEM. So, first of all, I think Kinera set out to disprove people on its tuning. For the naysayers that say that they can't tune properly, I think they're out to prove people wrong. And in order to do that, they went full tilt boogie with a lot of different drivers in this hybrid. It's actually a quadbrid. There you go. Let me read the tuning philosophy from Kinera. And this is, and I don't go into too much, but it does play into, I think, what I heard. So they're saying their tuning philosophy: balanced atmospheric sound style with slightly prominent mid-range vocals, solid and stable bass, abundant energy, detailed and delicate high end, and a tidy soundstage suitable for pop, jazz, and small ensemble recordings. Yeah, 100%. These things sound amazing. Absolutely amazing, stunning sound. Did they do all of what their philosophy wanted? Absolutely, 100%. And we'll get into a bit of that sound as well. Let's talk about what's inside this thing, which is a bit surprising because I posted something from my listening impressions, and I said it was a 10 millimeter dynamic, and I was comparing against the SoundRhyme TTE 900, and I got corrected by Tony Tex. Thank you. This thing has actually got a 6 millimeter dynamic driver in it, and that is an LCP again. It plays ridiculously low and has some great sub bass output when called upon that I wouldn't have believed out of a 6 millimeter single 6 millimeter dynamic. And that could keep up with the other drivers in here, which are 6 Knowles BA, 4 for the mids, 2 for the highs. And then we're throwing in 4 quad Sonian EST electrostatic drivers. That is a whole lot of drivers packed into this fairly, I mean, the shell is pretty chonky, so it is pretty big, but they've designed and engineered it where it does fit, at least for me, comfortably in my ear. And that was one of the other things that you needed to do in order to get, you're going to spend $3,000 on an IM. Not that many people are going to do it, but if you are going to do it, you are going to invest in other things to make sure that this sounds the way you want it to do. And that includes whether it be tips, cables, sources, the whole shebango, right? So lots of drivers in there. How did they do? Did they tune this thing properly? And without a doubt, I will tell you that it is not only tuned well, it's tuned as well as I've heard in the industry from anything I've listened to. That's how well this Kinera tuned this Loki. There was a couple different tunings. There was one for Western markets and one for Eastern markets, which surprisingly is the Western markets, according to their graph, has a couple more dB of high-end energy, which normally what we heard in that different tunings is the Eastern market tends to have a little bit more J-pop high-end, but not in this case. But 2 dB isn't going to really make too much of a difference in the tuning, regardless of either one. But I think I would have. Well, let's get into the tuning. So I talked a little bit about the 6 millimeter LCP driver. Fantastic, great quality, phenomenal little driver. Obviously, if it can go down that low and sustain in the low frequencies, if there was a low droning note, it doesn't run out of steam. It keeps going, and it's quite amazing. Then there's the bone I forgot to tell you about the bone conduction driver as well. So The one 6mm dynamic, 6 Knowles BA, 4 EST drivers, and a bone conduction driver. Sorry. Fixed. Now that thing is also special. It's my first experience with a truly implemented, well-tuned bone conduction driver. And on my graph, and I'll pull that up later on the factory graph, you can see it right from 150 to about 300 hertz where that energy is kicking in. And it adds something special sauce to the mid-bass area. Quite nice. So, how does the Loki sound? Well, the Loki sounds a slightly bit mid-forward, exactly like they described it. Tonality-wise, I would say a smidge on the thinner side of neutral. So that's how I heard it. And this was after all of the... So you can really play. Before I get into sound impressions, let's talk about how I got to this position. How's that? So while my Gishelli Labs DACs are out, I've been listening to the Hibby R6 Pro 2, and I got in the monster of a transportable app DAC from X-Duo XD05 Pro. Absolute beast of a unit. And then I started doing source rollings between the two, between the Hibby's AKM 4499 DAC and the ESS 9239S Pro DAC in the X-Duo. And one obviously using the 4.4 balanced out from the Hibby, using it as a transport into the X-Duo, and then the other one USB using... So, no, that would be backwards, wouldn't it, Monk? 4.4 is then going to be using this DAC and the USB using the X-Duo. So, in the end, I found the AKM. The two are very close. The DAC in the XD05 is fantastic as well. Very close. Slightly more analytical with the AKM in this implementation. That's where I stuck to through 4.4 and out. Now, in my final configurations and sound, I'm also using a 4.4 iFi IE match impedance correction device. So I can boost up the impedance of the Kinera. The Loki is pretty low. It's only 12 ohms impedance, 107 dB. So not that sensitive for power-wise, but pretty low on the impedance. So this bumps it up, and I could then juice up more of this, use the power in the X-Duo. So that's where I started off with my sound impressions, and that's how I got here. In the end, I did love this black cable that comes with it, and this one was an early purchase, so the owner got both, right? So he got a Effect Audio solid copper cable, and this one is an SPC copper and a gold-plated copper cable. Very, very nice cable. Beautiful cable. And I think that's going to be the stock cable that you get always in the box, and is fabulous. Did I take it a little bit further? Yeah, I rolled a bit more, and I ended up using, and I'll show you in the pictures, this is a XINHS, one of my favorite cables, not expensive, $60. But I really like the weight it adds to the bottom end, smooths out the top end, and that brought me to my happy place. Tips. In the end, I tip rolled tons, and I ended up with Panons, came in the SR DTE 900, and these are a pretty, the stem itself is really thick, and I went down one size and a pretty wide bore, and so I went to a medium tip so I can get full depth insertion here, and it really worked well for me, because what you want to do with this IM is you want to, let me just put a tip on and I'll show you that. For fitment wise, for me, you really want to get this thing in as deep as possible. And these are chonky monkeys. And mine does goes in quite far and makes a lot of contact with the shell in my ear. And that's really important to get that bone conduction driver sonically for you. You can hear it, right, at that point. So that's where I went. And sound impressions, let's go there now. Apologize for a bit lengthy, but on this one I will do timestamps as well. Should we talk about the bass again? Yeah, why not? It goes deep. It is really sub-focused. And the bone conduction driver adds a nice little bit of effect into the mid bass, where you can hear strings and instruments have that extra little bit of energy to give them something special. I really like this implementation of this bone conduction driver. Really done well, tuned well. And then again, that adds it in kind of the mid bass. So the 6mm is really just doing low frequency, sub frequencies. The mids are, like I said, a tad. They're not neutral. They would be considered for me on the thinner side. So female vocals really stand out in pop. Even with all this rolling, I prefer a little bit more warmer, darker tuning. So this is where I was going with the cables. So I found with that, cables and tips and all that sources, to get closer to a warmer source is, I think, preferable with the Lokis. And the other part of it is I just found, if we're still talking about, I'll go back to the bass. Sorry if you're jumping around here too much. I found it missing a little bit of the mid bass for my preferences, right? So I like a little bit more hit and snap, though. It was pretty good, like really good there's nothing to complain about at all. If me just wishing, ultimately a little bit more. And I thought it was missing so that mid bass plays also into vocals, into male vocals, where female vocals sound fantastic, where I found male vocals were missing a bit of the energy to give that huskiness and depth, right? The National, Sting, Shaggy, even Phil Collins, I thought sounded a bit thin, just a tad. Again, and we all have our own preferences. It's if you like a little bit more energetic top end and mids, you're really gonna love this tuning as well. But for female vocals, mesmerizing, really. I mean, how clean and clear the female vocals are, all vocals actually in general. String instruments in this kind of particular tuning, again, are just top notch. With the 6 BAs for the mids, and 4 for the mids, 2 for the highs, and the Knowles BAs. making string instruments. They're my favorite BAs for highs. They really, really pop when it comes to instrumental like that. And the 4S ESTs implemented very, very well. They do work. They give you that sparkle, the twinkles, the added little extra energy up top that makes those things a sheen. And it's brilliant. So they took, all these different drivers and they played them to their maximum effect. So honestly, you have to give a round of applause to Kinera. It should shut everyone up who says they can't tune IEMs. This is a example that they absolutely can. So the high end, again, brilliantly done. Sometimes, again, with this cable, which is strange that it's a solid copper cable, but it sounded brighter. I think it needed something with the gold in it to tame it, and that definitely worked. So same as your tip selection is going to be paramount. Otherwise, when you started dialing it up, without then it would get a bit sharp and sibilant up top at higher volumes. So also that iFi IE match corrects it just softens the top end just a little bit. In this particular case, not massive, but enough to just take the edge off. And I really liked the way it sounded with that. Stage, great, amazing 3D stage. Again, not the world's best, Soft Ears Twilight, but fantastic stage. In 3D, height, width, depth, all very cool placements. There's a couple tracks, and I'll go over some of that stuff. But the Loki has amazing resolution, details, air, spaciousness, spatial placement, instrument placement. Everything plays in its own kind of space and quite nice. It's an excellent tuning. So the bone conduction driver, it really does add a little bit of something special in the mid bass. It has a nice effect, and I really like the way it was implemented in the Loki as well. So not only were the ESTs done well, the bone connection was done well, the 6mm sub driver was done well, and the BAs are perfectly, honed for great mids and great highs. So a couple tracks. Let's go into a little bit of track impressions just to give you that. Labernia, Poncho Sanchez, amazing replay. Drums and the trumpets were all very, very spot on. Instruments are fantastic on the Loki. The Trial by Roger Waters live in Berlin gave such a massive 3-day stage. I was floored. I was really, really simply amazing. The Trial by Melissa Etheridge, silky smooth, perfect vocals. I'm very critical on my female vocals. Loki, amazing, absolutely amazing. Here we go again. Ray Charles, Norah Jones. Here's one of the tracks where I thought, Ray Charles is missing a little bit of Ray Charles in order to get to correct tonality that I thought. And so, again, the vocals were both fantastic to listen to, but I found that they leaned preference-wise more to Norah Jones than Ray did. So, and that's in duets like that. It's kind of interesting because then you can, okay, if female vocals sound fantastic, how does the male counterpart in the same track sound? And there I found a bit lean. Nothing Else Matters by Miley Cyrus. Great authoritative bass. The 6 millimeter driver and the bone conduction in conjunction really are surprising, how they get that. The EST drivers, those quad Sonian, adds a brilliance, a bit of sparkle on the top end that you miss without having EST drivers. The upper mids, again, I find a bit forward leaning. Again, more towards the thinner side than the musical side, analytical side. Next track was kind of interesting. Thunderclouds by LSD. Again, the bass is surprising. This is not a bass head I am. Let's put that out there right now. But the bass was wow, impactful, and dynamic. The Loki played this better than anything I've ever heard. It was just a huge grin on your face. It was pretty nice. Same Old Love, Selena Gomez. Again, what a great vocal replay in females. The Loki is in its element in this. And bass goes low and sustains low. Again, there's that surprisingness about that little 6 millimeter dynamic. And then Casey Musgraves. Great stage again on the Loki. This IAM is playing at a top tier level. Absolutely, honestly. Let It Be Love by Lady Antebellum. So again, here I thought I'm letting you on this track because I think the Loki sounded a bit thin in the weight, where I thought in the male vocals it sounded correct. Not as correct, sorry. I'm reading my notes because I was also doing a comparison to the SoundRhyme DTE 900 to give me a comparison of note weight for male vocals, female vocals, right? It's interesting to listen to an IM, but it's also good to do a comparison to something else to get your, senses. Read Your Diary by Manskin. Super smooth and loud you can play. But as you really start to dial up the volume on the Loki, it almost overloads you on the highs. Makes you turn it down a little bit when it's just one of these songs that you want to turn it up, but as you do, I find it was a little bit too much high-end energy for me. But the perceived clarity is off the chart. It's pretty fantastic. That was just some of the tracks that I used to, get my track impressions. I've listened to this a lot, and I've been really enjoying this set. And it's a surprise. So I now have a different opinion about Kinera and their full mad abilities to tune stuff. I think that is now not in the question for sure. Their packaging and their presentation has always been top notch, and now I think they have one that performs to that level as well. So it's hard. If you can afford a $3,099 IM, I don't think you're going to be disappointed in this thing at all. It plays technically at top tier. Absolutely. It's overall, quite balanced, but leans more towards the thinner and analytical side than the fun musical side, but there's still plenty of the fun in this IAM. Just like Kinera said, is it great for pop? Yes. Rock? Yes. Jazz? Oh, hell yes. Jimmy Smith, Poncho Sanchez, Ray Charles, they were all wonderful, wonderful replays. And with the way that Loki does instrumental and the natural tonality Did I mind that not having as much note weight? Not at all. I think it was just, you could just, it's a really, really wonderful sounding IM. Even though it leans more on the technical side, for my preferences, there's, for me, nothing to complain about. And I said, I'm just being super, super analytical and picky at this point with this IM. I mean, at a over $3,000 IM, it's only fair. Because, I mean, you're diminishing returns from something a fifth the price. Are you getting your money worth? And of course, that's always subjective. But I will tell you, if you own this set, you're lucky. You really are. Because it's a wonderful IM. And there's really nothing to complain about. So that's just me. That's talking about this set and how I thought. And I am so very thankful to be able to listen to this set and share my impressions with you. So thank you for much for listening in and watching this video. This is the Tone Deaf Monk. Until the next one, I'm out.